2019 was a phenomenal year for Kentucky Steam. As a year long of accomplishments, we're excited about 2020. We're going to revisit some of those awesome things that happened in 2019. Really excited about the people and organizations that were involved in making this what it is right now. Kentucky Steam was founded in 2015, and the idea was to lease this engine from Kentucky Railway Museum, somehow convince a Class 1 railroad to move it to wherever we were going to go, find a place to wherever we're going to go and restore it, and to establish an operating policy that we wanted to get this engine out, we wanted people to see it, and we wanted to increase tourism in Kentucky. Between then and now, it's been basically about 4 years. We've achieved so many of those goals. Coming to Estill County, we could not have dreamed a better place, not only community support-wise, but also the facility that we have is just phenomenal. We partner with CSX. They agreed to move it. Not only did they move the engine, but they've also donated a bunch of stuff to us. And we collaborated with Kentucky Railway Museum. Not only have we leased the engine from them and we gotten them positive public relations, but we've also raised some money for them in their restoration of L&N 152, their famous steam locomotive. So between then and now, the founding of our organization and now, phenomenal progress. We existed on the 31st of August 2015 is just a paper company. There was nothing else that was going on with this other than an idea, and it's been executed and it's been phenomenal, and there's been so many people that have been instrumental in making that happen. It's just, it would take me an hour and a half to just mention everybody who's made that happen. But now we're here, now we're poised to do what we want to do, and that's to restore this engine and run it and bring people back to railroading, to bring railroading back to this community and to make things happen, good things happen for the community. Well, we're standing here today inside the Ravenna shops. This building was abandoned for essentially 17 years. CSX decommissioned it in 2001. It wasn't being used. The doors were open, there were leaves blowing through it. It was not a utilized shop, and in fact it was derelict, for lack of a better term. Through a really giant collaborative effort within our organization, we got this thing hooked back up. Kentucky Utilities, local utility company, ran us new power lines. Kenny Stewart, Chris Davis, two of our master electricians, absolutely vital in getting this thing hooked up. We got Jason Sipchinski, our chief mechanical officer. He's done a myriad of things in here to bring this back to life. In November, we lit this place up for the first time in 18 years. So seeing this shop not only having railroad equipment in it, but able to be utilized in the way that we want to utilize it, with power, with lights, just a phenomenal thing. We couldn't have done this without Kenny and Chris, two of our major contributors within our organization to make this happen. Just a phenomenal effort. One of the reasons why this engine is in the shop today is because East Kentucky Power donated a bunch of rail to us. East Kentucky Power is a power cooperative just right up the road here in between Winchester and Irvin. They had some old track infrastructure, and we approached them about maybe utilizing some of it, and they donated it to us. So we went up there, removed that track. R.J. Corman helped us remove it, brought it down here, put it in. And without that, we wouldn't have had this locomotive inside the shop. So a huge thanks to the folks in East Kentucky Power, instrumental in helping us do what we're doing. And we're still working with East Kentucky Power now to extract more track from their property so we can get all three bays hooked up here in the shop. CSX, we talk about them a lot, but this entire project exists because of their cooperation and collaboration. First and foremost, they enabled us to purchase this property from them. It's not something that happens very much in any way, form, or fashion, especially not to a small and new nonprofit group. We approached them 3 years ago about purchasing this property. They were hesitant at first, but obviously we've fostered a great relationship with them. We purchased the property from them. We're taking one of their old facilities and reutilizing it. But it all started out with just an idea, and we've really warmed up to the organization. CSX has been great to work with. Not only the management that's enabled these things to happen, but also the people that do the day-to-day operations at CSX on the ground, on the trains, dispatching. All those folks have been great. We really enjoy interacting with the people that make the railroad run. And that's what this is about. This is about the people. This entire project is about lifting people up, and we really enjoy working with CSX on a variety of levels, especially the folks on the ground that make the railroad run, and that's what this is a tribute to. Well, CSX donated a caboose to us in 2018 when we announced that we're going to purchase the Ravenna property, and they said, we're going to slap a new coat of paint on it for you and we'll give it to you when it works for everybody. Well, not only did they slap a new coat of paint on it, they refurbished the entire thing. The paint shop, those guys at CSX Huntington shops, they just went above and beyond anything we could have expected. The caboose, when it was unveiled to us, we'd seen a couple pictures of it, but we were blown away when they rolled the door up at the Huntington shops and we were able to see it for the first time. Honestly, I could not see this caboose looking better when it was brand new. They did everything they possibly could to make it in tip-top shape, and not only did we get to see it, we also got to put it behind 2716, and it kind of was our crew headquarters when we were moving the engine down the track. So it's now indoors here at the Ravenna shops and is on display today at the Santa event, so people can see it and really understand what it took to get this artifact back to 100%, and most of those folks at CSX did for us. Big Rivers Electric donated an old flat car to us that had trucks that we could modify to put underneath 2716's tender, and that was necessary for us to be able to move the engine on CSX because the engine itself has roller bearings on it, which is a modern technology, but the old technology of plain bearings was on the tender, so we couldn't move it legally through CSX unless we changed those trucks out. Big Rivers donated this thing to us. We adapted the trucks, we got them underneath the engine. Huge collaborative effort with Kentucky Railway Museum. Their shop crews were instrumental in us making that happen. It was a really good collaboration, and collaboration kind of set the tone for what we did in 2019. We collaborated with so many groups, so many different people to make this happen, and it all started out with a donation from a big electric corporation in Western Kentucky, and kind of culminated where we are here today. Well, the prep work at KRM for getting this thing ready to go was very, very involved, and obviously we as an organization had a lot to do with the hands-on here. We couldn't have done it without the help of the folks at Kentucky Railway Museum, their shop crew. In fact, Jerry Burks, one of the major people who gets things done at KRM, was instrumental in this happening. We did a lot of things to the engine. First of all, we got the tender converted. We separated the engine and tender. We got everything kind of behind the engine ready to go so it could move around and jive up with the tender. Then this engine, basically all the bearings were inspected. Valvoline donated oil to us so we could get new oil in the engine. We took all the rods off. We polished all the necessary parts that were going to be really moving and be instrumental in the engine moving. Put all that back together. We painted the engine. We redid the electric. Just a lot of things happened in a relatively short amount of time to make this engine move on CSX and R.J. Corman. The big thing about this engine moving was the fact that it was involved with two major railroad companies. CSX hasn't moved an engine such as this in this capacity in over 30 years. This was moved at track speed, over 100 miles of CSX trackage, and then it also went to R.J. Corman, and R.J. Corman moved it as well. Phenomenal effort, and it couldn't have been done without the help of the folks at Kentucky Railway Museum as well as our own volunteers. Well, when we first started talking about this engine moving, early 2019, the pieces were coming together to say, well, this is probably going to happen this summer. Through CSX, we reached out to SARM, the Southern Appalachian Railway Museum, who operates Clinchfield 800. Clinchfield 800, historic diesel electric locomotive, only a few years younger than this engine, actually moved 2716 back in the late 70s. So the two engines had a history together, and we thought it would be really cool, since CSX had already had a hand in restoring Clinchfield 800, to put it on the point and be it kind of be the face of the move. So that collaborative effort, facilitated by CSX to allow us to work with Southern Appalachian Railway Museum, was phenomenal. Their guys were great. They had intimate knowledge of the Clinchfield 800. They gave a lot of time, energy, and effort into getting that thing tip-top shape in order to move the engine. And of course, they were in the cab of Clinchfield 800 when we moved 2716 across Kentucky. Awesome idea. It was executed brilliantly, and those folks at SARM are just were phenomenal to work with. Another great thing that happened this year to enable the Heritage Highball, the 3-day event for the locomotive to be moved across the state, was our ability to utilize two Pax Rail cars. Jim Evanson with Pax Rail called me up during the summer and said, I really like what you guys are doing. Would you be interested in utilizing a couple of our cars? He allowed us to use a Ringmaster car that is an old Ringling Brothers car, which was our crew dorm for the trip. He also let us use what's called a HEP car. It provided power for the train, so we actually could have lights and everything. Those two cars were just phenomenal. They made our home away from home on the train while we're going across the state. We're still utilizing those cars here in Ravenna today. Pax Rail is awesome to work with. They have a great fleet of cars. Jim's always doing stuff that's very proactive with keeping historic rail cars on the tracks. So we really appreciate those guys reaching out to us and working together with them. That was just awesome. Well, moving the engine was rolled up into an event we called the Heritage Highball. 3-day event from moving the engine from point A to point B. We moved it from New Haven, Kentucky to Ravenna, where we are right now. 3 days of events. We had so much that went on with this entire thing, but it started out at the Kentucky Railway Museum, where we ran an excursion to benefit both ourselves and KRM. Sold very, very well. We made a lot of money for both organizations. It was great. People trackside, people were on both sides of the tracks for miles. Everywhere you went, there was overpasses, there was people there watching. It was really cool to see the communities that we passed through just really support and be interested in what we're doing. We went through Louisville, and then we stopped in Frankfurt on the end of the first day. Frankfurt, people came out in droves. Over 2,500 people came out just in downtown Frankfurt to see the locomotive. It was phenomenal, and it really made us, for the first time, realize that people were paying attention to what we're doing. Second day of the Heritage Highball, found ourselves in Midway, Kentucky, and that community really came out and created an event, essentially, for the engine showing up. We were there for 3 hours. They had food vendors, they had merchandise, they had local music. Great, it was awesome. So we stopped there for a while, then we went to Lexington, which is about 15, 20 miles down the road. That's where I'm personally from. I, for years, dreamed of seeing this engine in Lexington, and lo and behold, we pulled into Lexington. Lexington was great. They had an event for us. Mirror Twin Brewing, as well as Ethereal Brewing, collaborated and created a beer for us for the event. They called it Back on Track. Awesome event. And then the last day, the third day, was one of the neatest days I can personally remember in this organization's history. One of the neatest days I can personally remember in this organization's history, and that's just when we brought this engine into Ravenna. The folks of Estill County came out in droves. There wasn't a dry eye on the locomotive or the entire consist. It felt real, and it felt like we were doing something more than was just trains. Obviously, we have a lot of interest in this locomotive, and the mission behind our organization is to do good things with trains. But coming into Ravenna, just something else. So many people came. Sonora May christened the locomotive. Her husband Tyler Childers came out, one of my favorite artists. So personally, for a lot of people here, that was pretty neat to see the Sonora and Tyler come out. The entire community came out, and then we brought this engine over here and put it in the shop 2 days later, and that was just a real amazing summary of 3 years of hard work to get to where we are right now. And this is just the beginning. I mean, we have gotten ourselves into a position to start the real mission of this organization. That's to lift up the community, get this engine running, and benefit Eastern Kentucky and Appalachia in general. We said in 2015, once we finally figured out that we were going to restore this engine and lease it from Kentucky Railway Museum, that we had a 2020 vision. The 2020 vision is kind of a cheesy catchphrase, but in 2020, we wanted to have this locomotive running. The only way that's going to happen is through donations. We've had so many people that have donated $5, $10. We've had corporations donate $10,000, $15,000 to us. It's been great. That's gotten us to where we are today, but now we really need to execute our vision to get this thing running. Is it realistic to see 2716 running in 2020? It very well possibly could be, but it's only going to happen with donations. We've got a great volunteer base. We have people with a lot of knowledge that can get hands-on with this thing and get it running, but we really need to continue the positive momentum that we have with our organization. That's continue to raise money. So if you're interested in donating to us, please do so. You can do it on our website, kentuckysteam.org. It's all tax deductible. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We'd love to get some money in here, not only to restore this locomotive and to continue the shop running, but also to get it out on the road and to have it bring its power and its majesty that these giant locomotives have back to the public and excite people like it's already done so far. From all of us at Kentucky Steam Heritage, we want to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts to our donors, to our members, to our volunteers, for all the organizations and individuals who have helped make this happen. We couldn't have done it without you. We're excited about the future. looking back at the 4 years and seeing what we've accomplished has been humbling. Looking forward and seeing exactly what's going to wind up happening is anybody's guess, but it is amazing what's happened so far, and we're looking forward to big and better things.